Hey everybody, welcome to another Dentistry Unmasked. I'm Pamela Maragliano-Muniz, Chief Editor for Dental Economics Magazine. With me, as always,
David Rice, Chief Editor at DentistryIQ, and we are here live this week, Pam.
This is really exciting. We're here at RDH under one roof, and so we got to pick some of our favorite dental hygienists. Some are new friends, some are old friends, but either way, they're inspiring in their own right. And so Britt Glauz, did I say that right?
Yeah.
Glauz. Britt Glauz.
Perfect.
Brush with Britt.
There you
How's
go.
That?
There you
Brush with Britt.
Brush with Britt.
Brush with Britt. Oh my gosh, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you.
So I follow you on Instagram, and I love your posts. I think they're fun, and I think they're practical, and I feel like people get to know you a little bit. So I feel like you probably walk around things like this talking to people like me who feel like they know you and you don't even know they exist. So how's that feeling? I mean, how long have you been a hygienist? Let's start with that.
So hygienist for 3.5 years. So not even 4 yet, but coming up on it. Yeah.
It's incredible. I mean, you think about the trajectory. I mean, it's really next level. Yeah. So I want to get into some of the things that you've done and some of the recognitions that you've had, but what inspired you to do what you're doing? I mean, I can't imagine you realized where all this would take you.
Yeah, definitely no, I didn't. And I still don't. I still am surprised by some of the things that are happening. But initially, when I was looking into how to become a dental hygienist, it was really hard for me to find information. And that was kind of before people were utilizing Instagram, and TikTok wasn't even around yet. And so I was looking for information, Googling things, and neither of my parents went to college. So my entire college experience was all kind of on my own, independent, figuring it all out and making tons of mistakes along the way. And so when I graduated, it was graduated from dental hygiene school. It was 2020. And during that time, our hygiene school shut down. And I had a period where, I wasn't doing much. All we had to finish was clinic, but it wasn't open yet. So I started looking into people on Instagram, any hygienists that were out there, just to find out more information, find inspiration from and motivation from. And there were a couple people that did create content, but it still wasn't what I was looking for. I was really looking for somebody that struggled the way that I did so that I could relate to them and also learn from them. And so since I didn't find that, I had a gap because of COVID, and I was like, well, maybe I can take this time to create something that I was looking for. I was taking walks during COVID, and I wanted a podcast where somebody was sharing just tons of information about dental hygiene. And again, there was a couple, but it still wasn't what I wanted. And so I just decided to kind of create what it was that I was looking for. And that's kind of where it came from.
What a better way to build a platform than that, right? There's something that I want. It's not out there. I would like to help people who probably are going through something like I'm going through.
It almost comes down to that. When you're in school or whatever, and they say there's no such thing as a stupid question. And then there's so many people that are afraid to ask it because they think it's a stupid question. And then finally somebody asks it, and it's like a breath of fresh air for all of the other people around. It's like a sentiment that's been around forever, but it really does resonate with a lot of people. And so let's talk about your first post and how quickly that's taken on a life of its own. So how did that happen?
So it used to be my personal page. I don't even have a personal page anymore. And I just decided I'm just going to completely switch it. And if people want to unfollow me because I'm talking about teeth too much, then, that's fine. And my initial goal was just to share about how to become a dental hygienist through community college, because that was the only route that I could take. I didn't have the grades to go to university. I didn't have the funds. I didn't have the financial stability. So community college was my route. And that was a blessing for me. And I just thought maybe I can share that information with somebody that also can only go through community college. And, I'm very confident in my education, even though it is through community college. And so that's kind of where my first post started. I was just oh, here's how to become a dental hygienist through community college. And it was only picture posts at the time. And so it was just a caption, step by step. And I just continued to grow off of that, really.
Do you want to know something?
What?
I graduated from community college.
High five.
Twice.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
My bachelor's is also from community college.
Oh, that's amazing. I have 2 associate's degrees, so I just went to community college. My parents were like, you're not going anywhere until you know what you want to do with your life. And I was like, well, I'm going to be a veterinarian. And they were like, okay, that's great, but that's a lot of schooling. So you're going to start in community college, and you need a job so that if college, real college, quote unquote, doesn't work out, you're not going to have to depend on a partner. And I was like, okay, that's weird. And so my sister's don't depend on a partner job was dental hygiene. My dad made her do that. So now, like, here it's my turn. And he's like, you're going to go to dental hygiene school too. So even though I was just in school, I had enough credits to graduate with a degree from math and science. So I just like randomly got that. And then I got right into dental hygiene school. So 2 years of community college. And I swear that education is the reason I'm in the dental industry today. Like, I still am inspired by my teachers. I like adore them. I look up to them. And if it wasn't for that, like, literally none of this would happen. So I think that's awesome that you talk about that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm proud that I went through community college, and I'm the same way. I have an associate's, like my general associates, my dental hygiene associates, and then went on to get my bachelor's, and that was all through community college. And another one of my greatest fears was getting into debt. I was so afraid of doing that, just because that's what I always heard, like, don't get into debt, don't get into debt. And community college really provided me with that opportunity to graduate completely debt-free from even my bachelor's degree. So I'm really proud of that.
As you should be. I'm kind of old, so dental hygiene school was $2,000 a semester or $2,000 a year. I mean, it was like nothing. And then I transferred to a 4-5-year school, like Northeastern and Forsyth were like a 5-year, I think. I don't know. It took me 1 year to get my bachelor's after, but I saw these hygienists that had the same credentials as me graduate with over $100,000 worth of debt, and I was already a hygienist, like doing all the things. And so I think the community college route is probably one of, I don't want to say the best way to go, but a really excellent way to go.
Yeah. And if you can get in.
If you can get, it's extremely hard to get into. I actually had to cut a deal with my dad. I said, I don't even know if I'll get in. I said, if I don't get in, I need a different don't depend on a partner job. I'm going to go be a vet tech at a different school. And he was like, whatever. But because I was that person, my sister is older than me, if somebody needed some sucker to take x-rays on, like, they would pull me in because I was already there as a student. Oh, you need sealant? She's got teeth, but make some sealants on her. Like they did. I was always there. So I think if I wasn't the mascot for my sister's class, I don't know if I would have even gotten into hygiene school.
Yeah.
So crazy.
You said something yesterday, Pam. We were just kind of having this conversation on how one of the things I respect most about my hygienist friends are you're not going to make it through if you're not committed, if you're not all in. So as you looked at people who went to, through different hygiene education programs, and I know you're both kind of focusing on the community college background, like also being so competitive, like, do people talk about that in the hygiene world? Do they, like, that was a worry for you, it sounded like a concern for you. Like, is that a discussion that happens?
Yeah, I see it pretty frequently. And that's a good point that I did actually want to mention too. Like, if people are interested in becoming a dental hygienist and they're in it just for the money, that's also not going to work out. You have to have passion in this, and if you just get in here just for, you see us talking about the hourly rates on social media and stuff, and you try to get in for that, you're going to get burnt out real quick. So I just wanted to mention that. But yes, to your question though, I do see a lot of hygienists having conversations around the cost of going to dental hygiene school, but with community college, it usually is a longer route. For me, it did take me a total of 4 years to get an associate. So some people, depending on their situation, they want to take that shorter route, even though it is more expensive. So it just depends on your situation and your financial circumstances.
It's true. And I remember day one of dental hygiene school, there was a conversation of all of us around a table talking about how many times you applied before you got in. Really? And I was embarrassed to say one. And when I said one, I was automatically not liked by probably about half my class because they probably tried for 3 or more years. Mm-hmm. So that's passion right there. Like, I became a dental hygienist because, like, my parents made me initially. Like, I thankfully fell in love with it. But I remember very early in clinic, I was like, man, this is hard. You guys want to do this every day? And I knew I was going to, I still thought at that moment I would still be a veterinarian. So I was sort of doing this as a, get my dad off my back so I can go to vet school. And I was just like, all day? And they were like, yes. And I'm like, every day? And they were like, yes. And I'm like, how many people do you see? They're like 8. I was like, wow, really? And they were just like, what? So no, I mean, I think it's amazing to know that this is what you want to do and having that commitment and that passion, but also sharing your journey, because it isn't always the easiest journey. And I know community college sometimes gets looked down upon, but I still think that, it was some of the hardest classes I've ever taken, including dental school. Put you in a physics class or something, it doesn't matter where you're taking it. It's pretty amazing, community college. So 3.5, 4 years, like here we are, and you've got over 80,000 followers on Instagram, which is unbelievable. You are an international lecturer. You just spoke at ISDH.
No, didn't speak. Didn't speak,
Oh,
just attended.
You just attended.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, not an international speaker.
Not
yet.
international.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that.
It's a matter of time.
Yeah.
But you were at ISDH.
Yes.
I was there last year. That's a cool conference because you get to interact with dental hygienists from all over the world. But so I got to speak there. So you get on your, it almost doesn't matter where you are. You get on your stage, you do your thing, you leave, and that's just what happens. You, Deary Lou, got recognized there. Can you talk about that? Because that is amazing.
That's big time.
It is.
I don't even know where to start.
Start with last year. Maybe
Okay.
like last year, because that last year gets you this year. Okay.
So last year, I was just looking around at different awards, and I found that the Award of Distinction, which is given here at RDH under one roof, got broken up into categories. So there's 6 different categories. It's public health, entrepreneur, and one of the categories is new RDH. And I was like, whoa.
Hey,
Hey.
that could be me.
I think I can apply for that. And so I just went out on a limb and I was like, I'm gonna nominate myself. Like, I don't know if somebody's gonna nominate me, so I know what I've done, so I'm just gonna nominate myself for this and see what happens. And I received the award and I was like, wow. So that was a year ago. So in order to receive the World Hygienist Award, which is also broken up into those same categories, you have to receive the Award of Distinction first, and then you're put into the running for the World Hygienist Award. So once that happened, you have to create a video, and then you also have to answer some questions, and there's some people who decide who they think is the winner. So I did that, and I ended up receiving it, and then I was off to Korea to the International Symposium on Dental Hygiene to receive it, and that was literally less than a week ago. That was on Sunday, and what's today? What's today? Friday? I just got back on Sunday from Korea, so yeah, it was pretty amazing.
That is amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That must have felt really good.
It did feel really good, and it was honestly an opportunity of a lifetime, and to meet hygienists from all over the world. Like RDH under one roof, it gives you a broader perspective on a national level, but then you go international and you're just like, whoa, this is something I didn't even think about. It was incredible.
What do you think was one of your most memorable moments there?
Well, definitely receiving the award. Definitely receiving the award was really fun. Last year, there was a couple of people that were able to attend the Award of Distinction, but this year, Emily Bogie and Anchi Do got to be there for me, and they were right there in the front row. So that was super, super special to have hygienists from the United States be able to be there. So that in itself, and then meeting hygienists from all over and hearing about what they do and their scope of practice and things like that, that was also very eye-opening.
I also think it's fascinating that there's some countries in Europe that don't have hygienists.
Yes.
And I just think, what would practice be like without a hygienist? And here you are having these international meetings where people come from all over. It amazes me that some of these countries haven't been like, they're onto something with these hygienists. Maybe we should get a few, you know?
Yeah, I actually met a hygienist, which I don't know if I have the year correct, but she is a hygienist in Belgium, and she was part of the very first class, which I think she said was 2019.
Wow.
Yeah.
Brand new in Belgium.
Yes.
But hats off to them because
At least they got there.
Yeah.
at least they got there. I don't know. I just feel like, and I mean, I guess I have a different perspective having been a hygienist and all those things that I just can't imagine anything without, I just can't imagine practice without a hygienist. I know prosthodontists that don't have hygienists, and I'm like, that just would never work for me. It's just not part of my DNA. I don't even think about it that way. So to have a whole country, I mean, think about what communities are like without dental. I just can't imagine what practice would be like without it. I don't, it's like not working with your hands. I don't think I could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's obviously people out there who are like, well, with everything that's gone on in the last 5 years, we should just not have hygienists here too, which kind of brings me to, that's a thing where there's still this like battle between dentists and hygienists, and as somebody who meets and is one of those like just people who are like crushing it out there, how do you help the dentist naysayers understand like what's possible?
I think for me, like one of the biggest things that I started to learn about was developing a successful perio-therapy program within a dental office and how successful that can be. That wasn't something that I learned in school. Like I learned about, you know, treating perio and things like that, but not the systematic way of doing that. And I think one of the things that hygienists really need to start doing is learning about the business side of dentistry and about production so that they can really understand their value. We can't go into these practices demanding these high hourly rates when we have no idea what we're bringing to the table in a number standpoint. There's a lot of things that we bring as far as like patient rapport and, you know, even co-diagnosing and all of that stuff. But if you don't know the numbers, you just don't know you can't justify your rate. So I think one of the ways to start is by hygienists really embracing production and just learning about the numbers. It doesn't mean, learning about that stuff doesn't mean you're unethical.
Right.
It just means you're knowledgeable about the numbers and you get it. So I think that's the first point. I think that would bring a lot more dentists and hygienists together if we took on that responsibility of starting to understand that. And also I think, you know, dentists being collaborative with their hygienists and understanding all of the value that they bring with those co-diagnosing. You know, I may be only able to bring in X amount of production in the hygiene department, but I can help you co-diagnose like no other. Like, I can explain treatment to a patient and collaborate with you and know exactly what you are going to recommend and explain that to the patient. So the second they hear it come out of your mouth, they're like, oh yeah, Britt told me that. I trust you. I know that you're here for me. So I think it's a collaboration on both ends.
I think so too. So Pam, like you're a dentist, leader, hygienist background who's literally transformed that in your practice. How did you collaborate with your hygiene team to make that happen?
So let's be clear, it was not always that way. When I bought my practice, it was in 2014. And at that point, I was 4 years in of traveling all over the place, peddling my program about tooth decay prevention. So that was like my jam. So as soon as I bought my practice, I was like, okay, everybody, I'm going to cancel an afternoon. I'm going to deliver my CE course to you guys for this whole afternoon. And at the close of my lecture, this is what we do. That's how it's going to be. And they're like, okay, so they humored me and sat through my presentation or whatever. And literally nothing changed. And so I went on, my team were nice people, like, you know, great people, just not my people. And so for me, the pandemic was transformative. So it was the first time ever I had 3 months off. I didn't really have 3 months off because I was, you know, working with Endeavor and doing, you know, home things. But it was my first time being off from the practice. And unfortunately, but fortunately, I realized I was so unhappy. Like if you were like, hey, Pam, you want to go to California on a Tuesday to lecture and, you know, whatever, I'd be like, sure, let's move patients, like no problem, because there was no energy in my practice. It didn't matter. And so I had that opportunity to think about my practice what I thought it was going to be, what it is or was at the time. And those were not anywhere, like they were just unrecognizable from one another. And so I had to swap out my whole clinical team. I did not know there was going to be all this staffing stuff and all that, but it just, like, I knew I needed to change, but it started with me. And so I always suggest that people take a minute to decide what's important to them, hygienists and dentists. And what are your non-negotiables? Like, what do you want your practice to be about? And just, like, put your head down and unapologetically head in that direction. And only surround yourself with your team that will support that mission and that vision. And so that's what I did. And it started with Sarah, my one hygienist, and I literally just took the previous hygienist schedule, and that was, boom, that was Sarah's schedule. So nothing was different schedule-wise. It was just a different person, a different outlook, a different energy, and a different perspective. Patients were the same. And she brought in $84,000 more in that 1 year, which was, oh, I'm talking about you. That's crazy.
Oh my gosh, is that Sarah?
That's Sarah. Hi, Sarah Crow. Oh my gosh, that's so weird. She must have known it was meant. See, like when you're people, they just show up.
They just appear.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. So, yeah, so she brought in $84,000 more the first year. Same schedule, whatever. I don't remember the exact numbers, but my fluoride varnish application numbers were abysmal. And now all of a sudden, we're placing fluoride on everybody. All of a sudden, we care about perio. All of a sudden, we've decided that bleeding is unacceptable because we've made it acceptable for decades, however long this practice has been. And all of a sudden, Sarah's schedule is too much. We need another hygienist. And so we bring in Beth. We've got another hygienist. And then Sarah's at an MDHA event, and she's like, I have 2 hygienists that want to work here. And I'm like, okay. I don't even know if I have space or room or patience or whatever for 2 more hygienists. And now I can't imagine life without the 4 of them. And who knows what's going to happen next. I feel like I'm going to hygiene myself out of my own practice. I don't have any more space for anybody else. But it's really, and I've been talking about the value of the dental hygienist since 2010. But man, hygienists are so valuable because what's happened for my practice financially, but also what's most important is patient care. And I feel like people that we just accepted their lack of health are now healthy. And it's just about creating value and talking to people the right way and getting to them on their level. I mean, some of the most non-compliant patients use water flosser every single day now. It's not like they're different. It's not like we fired all of our bad patients and only have good ones. It's just a level of motivation. And I just don't understand when dentists don't understand how valuable the dental hygienist is because, again, it's just, I can't imagine my practice without them.
I'd love to share a story.
Please.
So, obviously still a new hygienist. There was a periodontist that I worked with, and he was incredible. He really took the time to go over cases with me. And so that way, I knew what needed a referral, what was he looking for. And he would go through everything with me in a way that was just very educational. He took his time. And that just opened my eyes to how much value there is in what I can also refer to a periodontist, what needs to go, what to look for. And that was just very empowering to work with a doctor that took the time to teach me those things. And also, in a position where I was basically hired to revamp a failing hygiene department and turn it successful. That is when I felt the most valued, when I could just ignite every passion that I have and turn that thing around. That was really, really cool to experience that and be able to see it work and see production numbers go up. And like you were saying, how the fluoride application, all those things just went up. And then, you see it all coming from the communication with the patient and the collaboration. Once you have that good team, it's only up.
It is, but I will also say it's an evolution. I feel like we have a lot of protocols and we've got a lot of tricks up our sleeve, but it's because it's taken years to get there. And I think when you start at ground zero, you can't just do it all because I think it's overwhelming.
That's a good point.
And I
Very
think
good point.
yeah, it's time, and it's, you don't want to overwhelm your hygienist, because all of a sudden you're not given more time to do more.
Yep.
It's just that the practices get honed in. And so you come in as a new hygienist, and that's a big deal. I mean, that's a big undertaking to take a practice and turn it around from the hygienist perspective. Where'd you start?
Well, there was a lead hygienist who she herself had tons of experience, so she already knew that world, and so she really taught me a lot about having a periotherapy program. So it was really led by her, but the initial thing was creating block scheduling. So blocking out new patient appointments, perio appointments, but you have to get the whole office on board with agreeing nobody changes those blocks. If you change the blocks and you don't honor the system, it's not going to work. But you have to have those in place for a periotherapy program, because you have patients that need to come back for scaling and root planing, and you have those perio maintenance appointments. And it's also very important to see new patients. So you can't just fill those new patient blocks with prophies. So that was kind of where the baseline started, was creating a systematic schedule in the practice.
I love block scheduling so much. Now, just curious, because there's different schools of thoughts. Do you bring new patient blocks onto your schedule through hygiene or through the doc schedule?
So I've been in different practices where it varies. It just depends on the systems and what is all needed in the new patient process. But I think with having a successful hygiene department, the most important piece in that is if you have a new patient that comes in that is diagnosed with perio, don't do a prophy the same day. Take the time to explain to them what the gum disease is, what the treatment is going to be, so they have a thorough understanding of it, and don't do the prophy that day. Reschedule them for the scaling and root planing.
I think it's better to have them come through hygiene first. Even if I have a patient that's referred to me for something specific, I'll talk about that specific thing, but then I'll say, we really want to take a comprehensive look at your mouth. Let's get you in with the hygienist, because that's where the magic is going to happen, because you're hearing it from the hygienist, you're hearing it later from me, and it's not me, the owner, the person that quote unquote has something to gain or lose by them accepting treatment. I feel like the experience is better by going through hygiene. So I try so hard to get everybody through hygiene first. Obviously there's different reasons why you don't do that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I want them in hygiene first, even if they have to wait a little bit. I'd rather them have that experience, because I feel like once they have that, they're not going anywhere else. So block scheduling, what's next?
Also addressing undiagnosed perio. That's a big part of it too. A lot of perio charts that hadn't been updated, being able to take the time to explain to the patients, hey, what's going on and what they need. So getting them up to date with the treatment and care that they need, that's another part of it. Having a systematic way too of what is that 4 to 6 week reevaluation going to look like, and just really having them understand that once you get the scaling and root planing done, that's not the end of your treatment. You have to continue to come on, and here's why. We would also have the products available for them if they wanted to purchase them there. Of course, they didn't have to if they didn't want to. Implementing things like salivary testing is another good thing to do if you're able to get them to really see the levels of bacteria in their mouth too. So just adjunct things as well.
So as a newer hygienist, I'm guessing similar to a new dentist, sometimes we can walk into a practice that's done it maybe not the best way for decades, and now you're sort of charged with this new mission and this new transformation, and clearly you've figured it out, but how do you help other newish hygienists who feel overwhelmed, I'm supposed to flip the switch with somebody who's been getting that, unhealthy prophy for a decade?
Man, it's so hard. It's so hard, and when you try to take on that role too, that's when you really get burnt out. Because you're very excited to take it on, but then you're like, oh wait, I do not have a lot of time, and there's no perio chart here. I don't even know what's going on with this patient, so it becomes a lot really quickly. But I don't think that I actually have the answer to that. I would say, I think maybe if there was some type of training program or something to teach those things, because it wasn't something I learned in hygiene school.
Sure.
But to take that initial role on, you definitely have somebody, when you're new, you need somebody leading. I wasn't the leader in that, so I was fortunate to learn from someone else. Yeah.
Well, there's a few things I've taken out of this conversation, besides the fact that you're incredible, and I really can't wait to see all of the things that you do more, and where everything goes with you. We're going to be watching you.
Thanks.
But I also think that we talk about mentorship in dentistry so much, but I don't hear a lot of conversations about mentorship in hygiene. And so you had such a cool thing where you've got a mentorship from a periodontist, and a general dentist could be just as great as a mentor, and a hygienist as a mentor. So you've had it kind of from both angles. And so I feel like that probably helps to explain how you've been able to gain that confidence to turn around a perio program or to talk to the patients in a certain way. And so I think we have to remember that, especially most of the people who listen to our podcast are dentists, that you have an opportunity.
Yes.
You have an opportunity to open your little brain and let the hygienist get in there and pick it and let them understand why you're recommending a restoration here and a crown here, and what your perspective is and what your philosophy is, because your team should be an extension of you. They shouldn't be your adversary. They shouldn't be just somebody who's over there and I'm over here, and somebody who's recommending perio and you're like, nah, you don't need that. No, you should be working together. And so you should be able to learn from the hygienist, what your philosophy of care is, but also from the dentist forward. You should be a mentor to your team. And I think that's part of leadership. And so, I don't know, this has been a cool conversation. I've really had a nice time getting to know you.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Mentorship is very important, and I wouldn't have gotten this far without people that are guiding me and mentoring me in so many different areas. So it is really important. And as new grad hygienist, I had 8 years experience as a dental assistant. So there are some things that I did learn through that have helped me with things like co-diagnosing. So maybe a hygienist that gets out of hygiene school doesn't quite know all of those things yet. So working with a dentist that is able to walk them through that process and just show them, and not in a way that is, making them feel less than, but just actually teaching them, they're going to be on board with you and want to learn,
I love that. And I think when you have a culture, a character-driven culture in your practice, like your dentist is a mentor, your mentor, the assistant who sits on the other side of that chair with them. That experience is so valuable for you. Imagine dental assistants who are watching, you can play a role in really helping a new hygienist and a new dentist, let's be honest.
Absolutely.
I was lost in the beginning.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And you have an opportunity as a new anything in a career.
Yes.
You have an opportunity to learn and grow and fall in love with what you do, or you can have people slamming doors in your face and makes you frustrated and maybe not want to continue on in that role. And I feel like at this moment we need hygienists, and I think we need hygienists like you. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's a two-way street, and I think that we need to nurture that relationship as well. I think a lot of dentists are like, I know I need a hygienist, I don't want a new one. I need an assistant, but I don't want a new one. I don't want to do on-the-job training because I don't want a new one. I want an experienced one. But look at the opportunity that's right in front of you with somebody who's a recent grad who just wants to learn and be great at what they do.
I love that so much. And I think, for all you dentists out there who think there aren't tremendous people doing tremendous things, get your hygiene team to UOR or come to UOR as a dentist and meet the thousands of people who are awesome. And if you're not going to quite get there this year, you should probably head to Instagram and follow Brush with Britt.
Oh, thanks.
Most definitely, yes. So
I appreciate that.
We'll have to get you back here sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to.
I would love that too. So, David, we're out of time and we need to shut her down.
I know, it's crazy. So I guess we'll see you all next week. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening in. And thank you for joining us.
Yes,
it's been amazing.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, everyone, for watching or listening to the show this week. And thanks to our guests and sponsors on this episode.
Please check out our social media at Dr. Pamela_Maragliano and at Dental Economics Official.
Or you can check me out at igniteDDS or at Dr. David Rice.
And go to dentaleconomics.com to receive dental economics. You can choose to receive DE in print or digitally, and you can also get the details of our Principles of Practice Management conference on our website.
If you have topics or guests or anything you'd like to talk about on the show, send us an email to dentistryunmaskpodcast@gmail.com, and we will do our very best to make it happen. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.